There's been a lot of drama surrounding Genshin Impact lately, and for that reason I wanted to answer a question that I've seen people ask for years now. Can Genshin Impact actually be fixed? And honestly, I think the answer is yes. But before we get into that, let's first talk about what exactly people want fixed in Genshin. The first and probably biggest one is the artifact system. Looking at the full picture, hoyoverse did improve it over the years. You can get a main stat selector now, which lets you create an artifact with the main stat and 2 substats of your choice that you want. However, the issue is that the resource needed for that is extremely limited, or at least it was at the time of launch, so let me know in the comments if they updated it. But yeah, you don't really farm it, you slowly collect it over time, so while it helps, it doesn't actually solve the main problem. The RNG is still there, you need to get the right set with the right main stat, substats, and the necessary resources to do the upgrades. And that's where most of the frustration comes from. And even comparing to something like Wuthering Waves, Genshin's artifact system isn't necessarily worse, but Wuthering Waves gives you so many more opportunities to interact with the RNG that bad luck doesn't feel nearly as painful. Meanwhile, in Genshin, you're still mostly dealing with the same chances you've always had. And on top of that, somehow, after all these years, we still don't have proper artifact loadouts, something players have been asking for forever. Then there's co-op. A lot of people still feel like co-op is underdeveloped despite the game having all the pieces needed to make it better. There's also the power creep issue. For years, Genshin avoided it pretty well, but recently it feels like older characters are getting left behind much faster than before because they discovered how to make power creep that much more profitable, and yeah, we'll get back to that in a bit. We also have the endgame. People still complain about it. Some people are perfectly happy with the amount of content they have, but every time the discussion comes up, endgame is always one of the things mentioned. And of course the recent story. A lot of players feel like the dialogue is too slow, too bloated, and sometimes focuses too much on things that don't really matter. Now compare that to games like Wuthering Waves, a game that actively tries to address player complaints. Sometimes they even listen too much, sometimes they try to fix things that aren't really problems to begin with, but at least they're trying. Meanwhile, Genshin oftentimes feels like it moves far slower than it should, and the reason for that is pretty simple. They don't need to move. Genshin still makes an absurd amount of money, maybe not as much money as hoyoverse would like, maybe not as much as it made during its absolute peak, but it still makes a lot. And fixing these systems would require effort, more development time, more resources, possibly even more employees. And if the game is already successful, why spend extra money solving problems that aren't hurting your profits? From a business perspective, it makes sense. But now, let's talk about the other side of the argument. Can Genshin actually be fixed? And again, the answer is yes, because we've literally seen hoyoverse do it before. A lot of people forget just how much worse Genshin was at launch. Back then, the resin cap was only 120, there was no condensed resin, some events actually consumed resin, and because of the lower cap, you often had to log in multiple times a day just to avoid wasting it. Today we have 200 resin, before that it was increased to 160, already allowing players to go an entire day without worrying about resin overflow. Condensed resin exists, events no longer consume resin, boss farming is faster, the overall farming experience is better. Then we had daily commissions. Back then you had to do 4 commissions every single day, no alternatives, no shortcuts, no other options. Now you can complete your dailies through exploration, quests, events, and even through gameplay. You can still do commissions if you want to, but you don't have to, which is honestly one of the best quality of life changes they've ever added. After that we have exploration. For years players complained about underground areas not having proper maps. Eventually hoyoverse added multi-layered maps, something that probably should have existed from the beginning, but they still added it. We also got better navigation systems, more mappings, better tracking and exploration tools overall. The same thing happened with the artifacts it got improved over time, even if just by a little. The system is definitely better than it was at launch. The problem is that most of these changes don't fully solve the issue, they just make the issue less annoying. And even recently we're still seeing this pattern. Version 6.7 had some small quality of life improvements, but that's exactly the point. Hoyoverse is still improving Genshin, that's not the issue. The issue is the type of improvements they prioritize. Most of these changes only reduce friction. They make existing systems slightly smoother, but they rarely address the deeper complaints players have had for years. Artifact loadouts, meaningful endgame, co-op improvements, dialogue pacing, that's the difference. They're willing to polish the experience, they're much less willing to fundamentally redesign it, with their biggest new improvement, a quote-unquote skip button. So basically, if you've seen the live stream, Genshin essentially added a setting that lets you skip dialogue faster. So with your spacebar, you can skip dialogue faster with your spacebar. That's not what people have been asking for. That's exactly what I said. It just makes the system a bit less annoying. So they actually didn't fix the issue, and the issue being not having skip button or a way to skip the story. And yeah, they keep not having that, but I guess it's better than nothing. But yeah, that's important to point out, because what all of this proves is that Hoyoverse knows exactly what players want. They know how to improve the game, they know what people complain about, they know what needs fixing. They just move incredibly slowly, or sometimes they don't move at all. Which brings me to my conclusion. Genshin can absolutely be fixed, I don't think that's even debatable. The real problem is that Hoyoverse discovered a different solution. Instead of fixing the old game, they make a new one. Think about it, Genshin launched, no skip button, no artifact loadouts, limited endgame, a painful artifact grind, a slow daily routine. Then Honkai Star Rail comes out, it launches with auto battle, better farming systems, better relic crafting, and simulated universe has repeatable content. Then later they even add a skip button. Even if not available in all the content, it is better than nothing. But these are features that people wanted in Genshin for years. Then Zenless Zero launches, even faster daily gameplay, even better quality of life features, more modern systems, more convenience. And unlike Genshin, ZZ is still getting major quality of life updates regularly. Why? Probably because it needs them more. ZZ has been successful, but it never reached the level of Genshin or Honkai Star Rail, at least when it comes to revenue charts. Which means Hoyoverse has a bigger incentive to listen. They have a bigger incentive to improve retention and to keep players happy. And that brings me to my last point. Hoyoverse doesn't need to fix Genshin. The game is working exactly as intended. And Hoyo found a new way to make even more money outside of that game. Make a new game, fix some complaints from the previous one, launch it, make a ton of money, and then repeat. As long as the older game continues generating enough revenue, there's no real reason for them to aggressively improve it. Because again, from their perspective, these systems aren't broken. They're working exactly as intended. They're designed to maximize engagement, maximize retention, and they're doing their job just right. So from Hoyoverse's point of view, Genshin doesn't need fixing, and that's exactly why it won't be fixed. Not because it can't be fixed, not because the developers don't know how to, but because the company behind it doesn't see enough reason to do it. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I stopped playing. I used to love Genshin, but eventually the pacing, the unresolved issues, and the experience of other games that already fixed many of those problems pushed me away. At this point, I'm more excited for the anime than I am for the actual game, because I still like the world and its characters. I just don't really enjoy interacting with the game anymore, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Can Genshin Impact be fixed, or as Hoyoverse already decided, it doesn't need to be? And with that said, thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and to join our Discord, we are daily active, and I'll see you in the next one.